There's a pain inside me that's a killer. A dark fang tornado that leaves a vacuum not just where a heart should be. I try to fill it with blues, sex, espresso, and a drive to rescue lost things. I'm a private eye in Los Angeles, almost unbeatable in a fight. Hit everything I aim at. My name is Sanchez, but they call me the Mexican.
Hey, I'm JD Oliva for the Urban Fantasy Book Club, and I'm here with my friend and the founder of our club, the one and only Eric Erdek. Eric, thanks for joining me today.
Hey JD, man, thanks for doing this. This is really a lot of fun, man.
No, I'm excited, man. This was all kind of your brainchild, so it's fun to sit down with the guy who kind of conceived all this and got everyone together, and it's been a lot of fun working with everybody. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about the Espresso Detective.
All right, man. Yeah, well, it's been really fun working with you guys. I mean, as you know, making comic books is kind of a one man band. Well, the way I do it, I'm a one man band. Basically, I write it, I draw it, I color it, I ink it, I print it, I sell it. So it's nice to collaborate with you with a bunch of amazing urban fantasy creators and do this club. Um, the Espresso Detective. Here's issue one right here. Um, okay, it all started. Let me go. Let me hit it from this angle, man.
Sure.
Have you ever had stories that happen in your life that no one's ever going to believe?
Yes.
Okay, so when that happened to me, so many times, and I was trying to tell friends or so on, it sounds like either I'm bragging or lying. So I figured, you know what? Let's make a comic book out of it. um, in this particular case, the Espresso Detective is not necessarily me, but maybe kind of who I'd like to be. He is a Hispanic American detective guy. They call him the Mexican PI because in California, everyone who's Hispanic is Mexican. Like in New York, everyone who's Hispanic is Puerto Rican. I myself am half Guatemalan, not that you could tell. Um, and so the idea was to have this really cool Conan-like, enormous, strong, um, very like a Mexican James Bond type thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And having to solve my problems and tell the stories that no one will believe I could do, but maybe they will him. I have a place here in North Hollywood in California, and I rented out the front. North Hollywood is kind of like a mixed-use property. You can have a business and a house in the same thing. I rented out the front, and I lived in the back. And when I first moved here, I had these renters who opened what I thought was a therapeutic, like holistic massage parlor. And I didn't know that in California that means sex
Oh,
and human trafficking. So here I was with these tenants, and I could just see this pattern forming of human trafficking. This is a good 15 years ago, so there wasn't that much awareness about it. And I really, this is the part that sounds like I'm lying. I investigated it. I followed the people home. The guy would come with a van and load all the young girls in the van and take him away somewhere all at one time. I called the FBI. They weren't really all that interested. I called the Human Trafficking Task Force in LA. And it's like, they're like, homicide. I'm like, I'm calling the Human Trafficking Task Force. Yeah, we do that too. And,
oh.
which meant they didn't do anything. They basically listened to me and nodded and said, it's terrible. And I said, what can I do? He's like, well, these phone calls help, but just not a lot of political weight behind it right now. So the first villain in this storyline is human trafficking. He's dealing with that. Uh, and then as the story progressed, and I started getting more into like this, our group of kind of urban fantasy guys, I wanted to put kind of a magic element into it. So I brought some a little bit of like the H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu type deals in there. So
Okay.
he's dealing with with some supernatural elements as well. And the kicker is that he has kind of like a shaman, witch doctor, guru type guy that imbued him like with an ability to get superpowers from drinking espresso.
That's
So
cool.
that is a wide strokes of what the Espresso Detective is. Have you had a chance to look at it at all?
I have not had a chance to look at it. I really want to now. That was an awesome pitch. Uh, when
Uh,
it's super intriguing. So here's my question then: as a one man band, if you will, what is your process when it comes to creating a comic? Like, because you're doing all the legwork, which is
yeah.
unique in this day and age. So like from from first draft to final completion, like what's the process like?
Well, one of my heroes was Milo Manara. This, I think he's Italian actually.
Hmm.
I shouldn't say this. Anyway, he was kind of a one man band, and his artwork's spectacular. And so the idea was, I first wrote it as a screenplay. Here in LA, I used to be in the industry, and I was briefly a casting director, and for many, many years was called a session director. And um, I would see these amazing actors come in, audition, like unknowns, and say like, instead of writing down their names. So I wrote a script for these actors who are so amazing, a screenplay. And the Espresso Detective was a friend of mine. As the real actor's name is Rigo Sanchez. He's actually doing pretty well now. Um, the bad guy, Clemente, he's a friend of mine called Al Coronel. He's actually a major character in Call of Duty now. He's Garcia. If you ever play Call of Duty, he is, they modeled it after him. So it's kind of fun when I play Call of Duty, taking my buddy into the zombie pits and having him eaten by zombies. But to go back to your question, um, it's been a real growth process because I wrote the script and then I started trying to draw it, and I hadn't really been drawing for many years, so the drawings were terrible. And then I kind of developed this technique where I would kind of take images off the internet and kind of montage it in Photoshop to create kind of like the mock-ups,
Okay.
and then kind of use that as my storyboard, and then line drawing over that, and then do all my own coloring. And it's come a long ways. In issue one, I mean, it's kind of hit or miss. I mean, I got some really fun stuff, like some really graphic stuff, but some of the like the artwork, like that cat, if you can see it there, it's
Yeah.
pretty sharp. But then, some of the human figures, like the little girl and so on, they weren't quite. I mean, it's okay, but it's not quite as sharp as some of the other stuff. So as the comics gone on, I've actually started working with a whole bunch of different materials. I went from Photoshop over to this thing called Clip Art Studio Paint. It's an amazing program. So I do it all on the computer. I don't know if I got to that part. Yeah, I do it in the entire thing on the computer. I sketch it, draw it, color it, which saves a lot of time. And by time, I mean it takes me about a year and a half per issue. If that answers your question at all of my process.
That's an endeavor, man. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
up to issue 3 is done. I'm working issue 4 right now. I actually hired an artist, and he is mind blowing. He's worked for Dark Horse and for what's the other one? I'm not really sure exactly. IDW, I
oh,
think it
AW?
is.
Okay.
He's a penciler, and since a lot of the action takes place in Mexico, I actually hired. He's from Mexico, so I hired him to do the Mexican scenes, and he's bringing a lot of authentic background and characters. But as we all know, artists were kind of a temperamental bunch, so I've paid him for 5 pages and gotten 2, but the 2 are really good, so it's coming along.
I hear you. That's really cool, actually. So, urban fantasy, what are kind of your influences as far as like getting into this genre goes? 'Cause it sounds like you had more of a straight up noir story in mind and then leaned really into the supernatural elements of it. So, what kind of intrigued you into steering there, and like what are kind of the influences that have kind of like shaped you as a creator?
Yeah, you really hit that, man. It really was a journey from noir to urban fantasy, which I think really fit well together. The urban fantasy influences. I mean, I was a really big John Constantine fan from even when he started off in Swamp Thing, and I think Sandman's urban fantasy. I mean, kind of without doubt. Um, there is a writer right now called Richard Cadre. Cadre, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but he has a series called Sandman Slim,
Okay.
and it is the best urban fantasy. Basically, the storyline there is this guy's kind of a sorcerer in LA, and his friends get together and basically throw him into hell as a living being. He's the first like living man in hell, and in hell they kind of like have their way with him, and they throw him into the arena. And it turns out he's really hard to kill for some reason. So every time, every like if you stab him with a knife, next time a knife won't wound him. So if you claw him, so each time, each he has like an armor built out of scars. And he fought in the arena of hell for like 10 years. And then he got a key stuck in his chest, which lets him to travel through dimensions. So he comes back to Earth, and then he hangs out in Hollywood as a kind of a private eye slash bum slash video store owner, basically saving all of reality over and over again and fighting the. So check it out, Richard Cadre, man. It's like my holy grail now.
That's cool. So with your work, like, are you exclusively doing stuff with Kickstarter? Do you have things available through other channels, like business wise? Where is your stuff kind of living right now?
Kickstarter is my main, definitely my main outlet. I really love that platform. The fact that people are willing to support me, after a year of waiting, and I've got guys who've been with me since the first issue, and so yeah, that's the main outlet. I think if you go to my Kickstarter page, I have like a store there, like an outlet through BackerKit, and I do WonderCon often, and I might hit some other conventions. But I think that for me, Kickstarter. Also have a comic book store here in North Hollywood, Collector's Paradise, that carried it for a while. But I'm really focusing on putting enough issues together to make like a big a collection, like a hardcover, and that's probably what I'm going to push more, like in other outlets.
Gotcha. So we're gonna wrap up right now. What do you have kind of on the docket right now? What is kind of your thing that you kind of want to direct everybody at right now?
Um, I think this urban fantasy club is really exciting. It gets a chance to get all of us to get in there. So, I'd love it if people would kind of share that with their friends. And then I am going to get issue 4 Kickstarter going pretty soon.
Cool.
It's in the works, and I just like really feel happy that to have anybody watching this right now, that you're actually in the Urban Fantasy Club and with us. And I mean, a lot of the guys, you and with your pros, and a lot of the other comic book guys. I mean, they're gonna see us in the bookstores and in the cons later on. And if they're with us now, it's like, hey, I was there when they were in the founding members.
Absolutely. That's the plan. Well, we're gonna wrap this up now, Eric. I want to thank you for taking a couple minutes out, talking about your stuff with us. It's been awesome, man.
Yeah.
Your process is fascinating. I can't wait to check this out. It's gonna give me a new appreciation for it. That's so unique in this environment. So I'm JD Oliva. I want to thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next month.